Robservations with Robert, Meyer, Burnett.
Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your evangelist of the imagination, and, of course, the existential Mr. Rogers. That's right, Robert Meyer Burnett. And I am once again, after a week, robcasting at you imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity. Did you miss me? Did you miss me? Did with her PGS All-Star show get you through? There's more episodes of that. There's more episodes. The boys over at Phantasmagorium have sent me some episodes of a Star Trek show that's going to go up. I don't know what's happening with my hair today, to be honest. It's a little wacky. But I'm back. I had a great... where's the lights are so intense today. I had a great session in Portland, Oregon, working on crisis medicine, tactical casualty care. That was something I started back in 2017, directing and producing and shooting. Did it again. This was our third time. It was a lot of fun. It was fun working with Dr. Mike Schertz and his wife, Lori, the producer of the show. And it was great. We worked on CBRN class, on chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear weapons and what happens if you're in an event of involving any of those things. We did a canine unit, work with local canine police units, including their dogs. It was wonderful. And then we filled in some stuff that has been changed since the 2017 course. We worked for a week, and it was amazing, and it was fun. During that time, actually, it was Saturday. I wasn't here yet. I hadn't flown back yet. But on Saturday, the glorious news came. So for those of you who don't know, who might be watching the show for the first time or just, decided to watch this episode, I have a particular affinity for the NBC, now Netflix show Manifest, created by Jeff Rake. Now, I got to tell you, I've always said that Manifest is what I like to call the impossible premise TV show. Meaning that the actual premise, what the show is about, the very thing the show is about, you can never really explain. The granddaddy of all impossible premise shows was Lost. I think some people might say that The Prisoner was an impossible premise show, but I don't think so. No, Lost was, they were just making that shit up as they went along. And the way I think these shows happen, irresistible premise, they give you great characters, it seems good on paper, and they don't have shit, they don't know where it's going. Now, people said they knew where Manifest was going. I mean, I've asked Jeff Rake to come on the show. He's welcome to come on the show anytime he wants. But so Manifest, to me, is glorious gobbledygook. Great cast of actors. I really like the entire cast. They are committed to what is just nonsense. And I love it. I love it. People say, well, Rob, you're always railing about when things aren't good. I'm like, Manifest isn't not good. Manifest is just gobbledygook. It's good gobbledygook. It goes down smooth, but it's just utterly hogwash, all of it. And when I say the impossible premise, so for those of you who don't know, and by the way, I hope it's not lost on anyone that this is episode 737 of Robservations, the show about something. Get it? 737? Actually, it wasn't the 737 in the show. Or maybe it was. I don't remember. It's 737. How could it not be about Manifest, this episode? So anyway, Manifest, the premise of the show is that a bunch of vacation travelers are coming back to New York after they have been in the Caribbean, the Bahamas or something. And the plane that they're on lands 5 years after it took off. So, do they travel through time? What happens? So they deal with the group. What happens? Like, a lot of people's loved ones moved on. They thought they were dead. Children grew up. Twin siblings have been separated. Now they're totally different from one another. There's all kinds of, what would happen if you were on a plane and it landed 5 years after you took off? So immediately put yourself in that position. That alone could be an interesting premise of the show, but not necessarily about why. Of course, why did this happen? course, you can't really ever explain why it happened. Because if you say why it happened, then the mystery's over. So you got to keep that mystery going. But Manifest was not content to end there. Oh, no. So the people that came back, that were on the plane, that went through a 5-year time warp, also started getting what they call callings, where they are compelled to render aid to people in need, whether it's emotional need, physical need. So on top of the time traveling, then suddenly you're dealing with, there's some kind of divine force, divine providence that is now working in all of the passengers' lives, where some of them understand what's going on, some of them are kind of driven nuts by it, but for the most part, you got to help people, because that makes sense. So whatever caused you to go through a time warp also suddenly, so I mean, if you really start thinking about it, the logic behind all this, so there's somebody, and it goes down to the same logic that I have problems with movies like The Ring, Ringu, the Japanese film The Ring. If you really run down what's actually happening in The Ring, it's ridiculous. It doesn't make a lick of sense. And I guess because it's a horror film, it doesn't have to. But nightmare logic and all that. But this show, the very idea that people are being given visions, and those visions are being given to you, that somebody knows, like there's some force that they don't really explain, some force, something is going on where not only do they know that there are people in need, like in the greater New York area, how many people are in need, and why only in the greater New York area? Why don't they have callings for people like in Bangladesh? But they don't. They only have callings for people that are in their general vicinity that you can get to by car, train, or whatever, public transportation. So whoever the whatever's going on to provide these callings for the passengers that went through time, there's a lot to ask there, because there's clearly some kind of an intelligence behind it. And then as the show goes on, they add all kinds of crazy things. There's a character now who went through a year-long time warp. He was in a cave. What that has to do with an airplane, I don't know, but he went through the same kind of time jump, but it was only a year instead of 5 years. Why did this happen? It doesn't matter. It's Manifest. And the thing is, the characters are all kind of likable. I like all the actors. And the reason I like Manifest so much is because they don't make any pretense that they know what their show is about or where it's going. They're just making shit up as they go. And it's fun to see, for me at least, it's fun to see where they're going to try and convince me that they've thought through it. Of course, Jeff Rake has said, oh, no, we have a plan. Oh, come on, Jeff. Really? By the way, Ricky B sends in a super chat sticker, and sends in a super chat sticker, so thank you. Appreciate that. Jeff, I want you to come on the show. We'll talk about it. But I just find the audacity of the writer's room, the Manifest writer's room. I mean, I don't know if they get drunk and they just smoke a bowl before they come up with their plot threads, because it just gets increasingly more ridiculous. And really, it's either going to be they're in purgatory, they're in the afterlife, and all these characters, it's how they're getting into heaven or some shit like that. I don't care. I'm there for it. So anyway, Manifest got canceled after the 3rd season. It was a dark day. There's sometimes you just like your gobbledygook, and Manifest is nothing if not gobbledygook, and I was like, they took it away. And the 3rd season just doubled down on the gobbledygook, and I was there for it. And I figured, well, that's it. Jeff Rake is not going to get to continue to tell this story. But then, well, first of all, so there was some question as to whether or not Manifest was going to come back. And on June 22nd, that's right, just a couple of months ago, Joseph Baxter at Den of Geek wrote this article: Why Manifest Season 4 Wasn't Rescued. A few years ago, Manifest Season 4 would have been a promising proposition for the array of insatiable streaming platforms that saw the act of rescuing a beloved canceled network series, I don't know if it's that beloved, as a proverbial feather in the cap. However, for obvious reasons, times have clearly changed for the industry in the past year. Consequently, NBC's recent cancellation of the sci-fi-leaning mystery drama after 3 seasons proved portent, since ensuing attempts by its producers to land the series elsewhere are now confirmed to have failed. Okay, hope springs eternal, kids. What does this tell you? don't give up, 'cause you have friends. I can't do Kate Bush. Anyway, since ensuing attempts by its producers to land the series elsewhere are now confirmed to have failed, it begs the question of how a formerly buzzworthy series like this managed to crash this quickly. While NBC officially canceled Manifest back on June 14th, the notion of the series ending was widely taken with an auspicious grain of salt for multiple reasons. After all, the story of a television series being canceled by a network for sinking ratings, only to be rescued by another platform on the back of the hashtag-heavy social media campaigns, and by the way, Save Manifest was hashtag-heavy, and even the actors participated. The back of hashtag-heavy social media campaigns from a passionate fan base is one that has become familiar. While predictably hashtag Save Manifest was gaining momentum, the real kicker here was that the fate had seemingly delivered a boon, since the first 2 seasons of Manifest had just arrived on the biggest streaming platform of them all, Netflix, where, according to the platform's public ranking system, it became its most popular series that very week, no less. Thusly, fans had to feel as if a Netflix pickup, prospectively yielding similar success as rescued shows like Cobra Kai and Lucifer, was inevitable. However, a report from Deadline confirmed the failure of those efforts, which has resulted in bittersweet acceptance from creator Jeff Rake and cast members such as Josh Dallas and Melissa Roxburgh. Jeff Rake, Manifest Gratitude Final Edition. This is June 21st, 2021. Jeff Rake, even Jeff Rake, the creator of Manifest, had folded up his tent. Thank you, our fans. You became the manifestors at Comic-Con 2018. Ever since, you've watched religiously, parsed every word, cried a lot, laughed a little, puzzle solved, and never ever wavered in your support. I'll never forget that. Well, let me tell you something, Jeff Rake. I am one of those manifestors. I believe in manifest destiny. I believe. I'm never going to call your show great, not like The Sopranos great, not like Game of Thrones 1 through 4, season 1 through 4 great, not like X-Files 1 through 4 great. But you know what? Your show was wildly entertaining to me, and I would not miss an episode. So even though I understand, Josh Dallas, who, by the way, is probably the backbone of the show, for whatever reason, his winsome ways, you just believe that guy. And he said, well, my manifestors, I'm sorry to say that it's the end of the line for now. We're so proud to have brought you this story over 3 seasons. We so wish we could have finished the journey with you, but it wasn't in the cards. Thanks to our incredible EPs, producers, and writers. There they are. Look at them, brother and sister. Melissa Roxburgh says, oh, to put into words the last 3 years. Thanks for everyone who joined on with us. I'm forever grateful for the family of misfits and creators that wound up at Silver Cup Studios. That's in New York. It's Astoria, right? When you film a show, you spend all day, every day with these people. I mean, look at those people. So how did this happen? To answer this, let's backtrack to Manifest's NBC primetime debut on Monday, September 24th, 2018, which yielded over 10 million viewers according to the Nielsen's numbers, with the show having been heralded by Comic-Con panel hype and even the strategic preemptive posting of its pilot episode on YouTube. While the show, the creation of executive producer Jeff Rake, who produced The Tomorrow People and The Mysteries of Laura, wore its story-stretching, putting it mildly, wore its story-stretching genre inspiration from shows like Lost and The 4400 like a badge of honor, the premiere was nevertheless impactful thanks to a compelling sci-fi-leaning premise in which passengers of the 2013-era flight of Montegro Air 828 from Jamaica to New York City were lost for 5 years after the plane vanished, only to land in 2018 completely oblivious of any anomaly. Indeed, Manifest may have been a sci-fi series, but its focus on the implications of the passengers' disappearance on their families resonated with audiences, making the series a surging hit that quickly landed a renewal despite its 16-episode inaugural season, settling down to a 6.482 million viewer average. Come Season 2, which premiered on January 6, 2020, the series would naturally evolve from its initial premise, slowly attributing the plane's disappearance and the dubious celebrity status experienced by the passengers to ambiguous notions of time and or dimensional phenomenon and the seemingly clairvoyant visions they experience called callings, which tend to lead them to where fate dictates. However, despite remaining on Monday's Manifest returned to a major low of 4.728 million viewers for that season premiere, although it managed to hold steady for an average of 3.899 million viewers across the reduced 13-episode season. This could be considered an accomplishment when considering how the year 2020 would play out with the pandemic, especially in the immediately ensuing months. Thus, NBC ended up rewarding that consistency with a Season 3 renewal, although the months that passed from April 6, 2020 airing of the Season 2 finale to the June 15th renewal announcement spoke volumes about the show's increasingly tenuous place with the network. Tellingly, Manifest's third and, as it turned out, final season premiered on Thursday, April 1st, 2021, to little fanfare compared to the previous seasons, and the 13-episode run saw a small but steady decline in viewership, leaving an average of 3.87 million viewers upon the June 10th season finale, which also tellingly was a conventional network let's-just-get-this-over-with strategy of airing double episodes. Unsurprisingly, NBC only needed 4 days to confirm its cancellation of the series from the airing of the finale. While it remains arguable regarding why the series experienced this downfall, many cite its increasingly convoluted quasi-religious sci-fi leanings. Okay, first of all, let me just tell you all, that is why I watch this gobbledygook. Quasi-religious sci-fi leanings. Let me just tell you, they leaned heavily into this. The quasi-religious sci... I mean, I was expecting George Burns to walk out and say, I'm God, and I'm bringing you your callings. And I have a plan for all of you, even though George Burns died decades ago. On this show, could happen. That's why I love Manifest so much. Many cite its increasingly convoluted quasi-religious sci-fi leanings, which protracted the plight of the 815ers to an impersonal global level, leaving little room for the family story that was so powerfully established in the pilot episode. Nevertheless, Manifest maintained a general stability in fan base that would have made it ripe for rescue by Netflix or another major streamer, only at a time before 2020. Paradoxically, the pandemic cemented streaming status as an essential entertainment source, but left companies with a significantly altered bottom line, and Netflix is the most notable example of this phenomenon. Let me just take a little drink here. An inopportune state for Manifest and its fans, since Netflix represented the show's most realistic shot for a rescue. Once a spendthrift monopoly with a hair trigger for greenlighting just about any project, Netflix is in the midst of an unprecedented era of belt-tightening that has been exacerbated by the pandemic, as recently exemplified by the cancellation of its once lavish lineup of shows like Jupiter's Legacy, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Ozark, Glow, and I Am Not Okay With This, and The Society, as veteran series also finish out their runs. Thus, despite the current season of Manifest catalog episodes on Netflix, the streaming giant, like its industry peers, is not exactly in the mood to rescue niche network castaways, leaving the series with no viable option to maintain creator Rake's purported 6-season story arc. Jeff, if you ever come on the show, and I invite you to come on the show because I love you, man. We had a brief exchange via Facebook. I want to see that plan of yours. I want to see it. I want to see the outline. I want to see anything other than like a few sentences. Like, don't give me some Journal of the Wills bullshit. I want to see what you were going to do. I want to see all 6 seasons. Can lay them out. Other TV creators have given me outlines for their shows. One day I'll share some of them. Rake's purported 6-season story arc. As a result, the only streaming premiere that fans of the series can look forward to will be when the final season joins its 2 predecessors. So that was Joseph Baxter writing in June of this year. Even the cast and crew were tweeting their goodbyes. But as we know, children, as we know, for all of you imagination connoisseurs out there, do you know what imagination connoisseurs are most of all? We're an optimistic bunch. We always see the silver lining in every dark cloud. Or we'll look at a dark cloud and say, that's pretty fucking cool, because who knows what's going to come out of that dark cloud. We find goodness everywhere. And why shouldn't we? We live in a time where imagination connoisseurship has never been higher. There's more of us than ever before. We're everywhere. And we're getting an embarrassment of riches. My God, you know what's coming out this weekend? Shang-Chi! A terrific film. A wildly entertaining movie. Even if you don't like Marvel movies, you'll like Shang-Chi. I'm telling you, it's just wildly entertaining. You know what else comes out this week? Talk about amazing things that's happening. If you live in the LA or New York area, that's right, you can see my latest work, the feature film Tango Shalom, that I both produced and edited. I was also the VFX and post-production supervisor, and if you listen closely, your boy RMB here is the voice of Moses in the film. That's correct. So go out and support your boy RMB. Go support the cast and crew who made this fakakta movie, Tango Shalom, which I adore. Let me tell you, if you have ever wanted to see an indie Jewish spiritual quest family dance comedy fable, Tango Shalom is your movie. And the fact that Tango Shalom is coming out in theaters should have told me something. It should tell me, well, that, I guess my work is worthy of a theater, which is amazing. But it should also tell you that never give up, because you have friends. Because why? What was announced Saturday? I was in Portland getting ready to come home. That's right, kids. And I wasn't here to actually experience this firsthand with you all. But look what was on Deadline on Saturday. Manifest is saved! Saved! Thank you, Jesus. It was saved. Manifest is saved with a 20-episode fourth and final season on Netflix. Like, come on. Come on, guys. I mean, this is, if aliens sat down on my front lawn and they brought me the budget I need to make 10 films, it would be less, I don't even know where I was going with that terrible analogy. That was a misfire if ever I heard one. Let's just say it's amazing. It's amazing that Manifest is saved. Nelly Andriva wrote this on August 28th at 8:28 a.m. Manifest saved a 20-episode fourth and final season on Netflix. Cast led by Josh Dallas and Melissa Roxburgh to return. I mean, you can't make Manifest is Josh and Melissa. As a matter of fact, they should just give Netflix or NBC let's just make the Josh and Melissa show. It doesn't even, you make it up as you go. Just put them in the movies or put them in the show. Josh and Melissa can just chill the fuck out. I don't care what they do. They can go camping. They go driving across the country. They can go ballooning in Arizona. I would just watch the two of them. They should just be in every show, every movie. Make them Marvel Cinematic Universe superheroes. Why not? Because after doing Manifest, they can do anything. Manifest will live on. After weeks of negotiations, Netflix has closed a deal for a supersized fourth and final season of the Missing Plane drama, which will be available exclusively on the streamer, Netflix, worldwide, in a nod to Manifest's fans, whose passionate support helped resurrect the show following its cancellation by NBC. The announcement of the Season 4 pickup by Netflix was made on so-called 828 Day, which is August 28th, hence my 737 episode about Manifest. When the series about the mystery of Flight 828 is celebrated annually. Is it, though? Come on, man. Is it? Is it really? When the series about the mystery of Flight 828 is celebrated annually. The final season of Manifest, created by Jeff Rake, will be comprised of 20 episodes. As is customary for a series on Netflix, the 20-episode season will be split into multiple parts. As Deadline previously reported, in anticipation of closing the agreement with Netflix, Manifest-led studio Warner Brothers TV earlier this month started negotiations with the cast to return, in addition to reaching out to the writers who had worked on the show and new ones about joining executive producer showrunner Jeff Rake for Season 4. I hear stars Josh Dallas and Melissa Roxburgh have closed their deals for the final season. J.R. Ramirez also is believed to be set, while Praveen Kaur remains in negotiations along with some or all of the remaining series regular. Luna Blaze, Matt Long, and Jack Messina. Long is also a series regular on the NBC drama pilot Getaway, with 1 year that could allow him to do also Manifest, subject to syncing up dates, but that's very much up in the air. Warner Brothers TV is not commenting, but I heard that there are new deals for the cast whose original contracts expired in June, and they include sizable pay increases. I fucking hope so, because they deserve it. The Manifest actors all participated in the hashtag Save Manifest campaign, which helped keep the show at the top of the Netflix streaming rankings and ultimately bring it back from the dead. Or maybe not, because they might be in purgatory, in which case they're not back from the dead, but you never know. Because on this show, it's either God or aliens. Come on, which is it? Or ghosts. Who knows? Or people from the future. They're monkeying, which I would, if I was making Manifest, all of this would be manipulation from the distant future, kind of like the movie Millennium, which also deals with airplanes. But something like that. That's how the callings are able to be put into, they're shaping the future. So everyone in Manifest is going to wind up hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, into a glorious future they can hardly imagine, walking off into a beautiful new bright day in a future that is unknown. Because why? Let's do a future Manifest series. I mean, hell, tied into the Foundation. Maybe Harry Seldon turned out to be on that plane. You never know. Again, I'm off into the weeds. A canceled broadcast series finding a home is extremely rare. Manifest Resurrection is outright improbable because it came after Warner Brothers TV had already concluded its campaign to find a new network partner following the series' cancellation by NBC. The studio made that call on June 21st after exhausting all of its options and following days of conversations with Netflix, which ended in the streamer passing on the show after a deal between two sides appeared out of reach. You know what? I've always heard this about Netflix. They might say no to you one day, but the next day they say yes. So there you go. However, united by the hashtag Save Manifest movement, fans continue to rally behind the show, with Rake encouraging them on Twitter to keep the faith. Fueled by the fan campaign, Manifest Season 1 and Season 2 viewership kept surging on Netflix in the U.S. since its launch on the streamer in June. Even Zoe Trope, who lives here, walks out of her room one day and she goes, "Have you ever heard the show Manifest? Heard of the show Manifest?" I'm like, come on. But she's liking it. Manifest's incredible ratings resilience on Netflix led to the stunning reversal, with both Netflix and NBC Peacock last month expressing interest in picking up the show. Netflix quickly emerged as the leading contender with its offer for more episodes at a higher license fee and has been negotiating exclusively for the last couple of weeks. There were complicating factors that doomed the original talks with the streamer in June, most notably international distribution for the series. Netflix demands global rights on all seasons of its originals, and Warner Brothers TV already had sold Manifest's NBC run internationally market by market. But Warner Brothers TV and Netflix had a working template for successfully moving a canceled broadcast drama to the streamer, overcoming international distribution obstacles with Lucifer. Manifest is following a similar path with a patch quilt of windows in various territories where the show will become available on Netflix at different times under different conditions. Since its premiere on Netflix in June, Manifest has proven very popular with our members, says Bella Bajaria, Netflix head of Global TV. Jeff Rake and his team have created a beguiling mystery that has viewers around the world on the edge of their seats and believing again in second chances. God bless you. And we're thrilled that they will bring fans some closure with this final supersized season. They're not going to bring anybody closure. They don't even know what that closure is. And I'm telling you, it's good. Yeah, aliens, the future, ghosts, or God. It's one of those things. The pickup by Netflix will give fans answers after the cancellation by NBC made for a premature ending, leaving unanswered questions and unresolved Season 3 finale cliffhangers for the series, which had been originally conceived by Rake for a 6-season run. Well, yeah, of course, everybody wants their show to run 6 seasons. Come on, brah. You don't know what's happening. I can't wait. I mean, I wish that somebody was filming the first day of the Season 4 writers' room meeting, and Jeff Rake's like, "Okay, everyone, I don't know what's fucking happening on this show, but you guys do. Pitch me. Tell me what's going to happen in this season." I'm telling you. Glorious gobbledygook, and I'm here for it. The supersized 20-episode pickup order would help toward that goal, as it represents Manifest's largest season order. The series' first season consists of 16 episodes. Season 2 and 3 featured 13 episodes each, so it's almost like they're getting 2 seasons. What started years ago as a flight of fancy deep in my imagination has evolved into the jet engine journey of a lifetime, Rake says. Never in my wildest dreams could I have envisioned the worldwide outpouring of love and support for this story, its characters, and the team who worked so hard to bring it all to life. That we will be able to reward the fans with the ending they deserve moves me to no end. On behalf of the cast, the crew, the writers, the directors, the producers, thank you to Netflix, to Warner Brothers, and of course to the fans. You did this. Hey, Mr. Rake, I'm actually an approved television director by HBO. I did direct 5 episodes of Femme Fatales. Don't judge me. But if you need someone, to fill in, you need like 8 days, I'm willing to work for scale. That's all I'm saying, bruh. Just saying, putting that out there. In Manifest, when Montegro Air Flight 828 landed safely after a turbulent but routine flight, the crew and passengers were relieved, yet in the span of those few hours, the world had aged 5 years, and their friends, families, and colleagues, after mourning their loss, had given up hope and moved on. Now faced with the impossible, they're all given a second chance. But as their new realities become clear, a deeper mystery unfolds, and some of the returned passengers soon realize they may be meant for something greater than they ever thought possible. There you go. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Manifest, the 4th and final season. I mean, come on. I mean, unbelievable. Why wouldn't you love this? Flight 828, it's all coming back. And congratulations again to the cast and crew of Manifest. Because, it's not all bad. Manifest is coming back. And to me, that's a pretty big, epic win for all of us. So the real question is, have you missed me? I know I've been missing people's super chats. I'm going to get back to those. But you know what I've been missing? I've been missing you. All of you. It's been a while. It's been a long time getting from here to there. I have many letters. And I'm just going to start reading them. Video Hunter D, our friend Video Hunter D, writes in and says, Rob, we've lost a great martial arts film star. At 82, the legendary Sonny Chiba has passed away from COVID. Probably best known in the U.S. as Kill Bill's sword maker, Hattori Hanzo, Chiba was Japan's biggest martial arts star, a la Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, Tony Jaa. With tons of awesome 70s martial arts films like the Street Fighter trilogy and Sister Street Fighter, featured in True Romance, The Bodyguard, where Tarantino got the Pulp Fiction Ezekiel Furious Anger Bible quoting from, The Executioner, Karate Bear Fighter, Champion of Death, G.I. Samurai, Wolf Guy. Come on, look at those titles. Who doesn't want to watch all those movies? Everybody has their own favorite martial arts star, but for people who love the martial arts film's gritty, hard edge and grindhouse, Sonny Chiba is our champion. There are things that tell me right away whether someone is on the same page as me movie-wise, and those are whether you love Sonny Chiba and whether they love the director Kiyoshi Kurosawa. Kiyoshi Kurosawa directed one of my favorite horror films, the original Pulse. He also made Cure. I'm a big fan. I know you love Kurosawa, but are you willing to declare your love of Sonny Chiba right here and right now? Come on, man. I love Sonny Chiba. Love him. Who doesn't? When I saw True Romance for the first time in the theater, actually I saw a videotape of it, to be honest. I can't explain how I got it. I promise I'd never tell, but that was when the movie was still in production. I wasn't supposed to have that tape, but I had it. And I loved the fact that he went and saw 3 martial arts movies. Sonny Chiba and the Street Fighter. Yes, so I'm a big fan. Video Hunter D. You can rest assured that I am a Chiba fan. And it is very sad. He died of complications from COVID, but he did live a long life. Donnie Pearson. Our friend Donnie Pearson writes in, Hello, Rob and all. I hope everyone is well. I thought I'd do a follow-up to my Jeopardy letter since there is breaking news this morning that Mike Richards, not the actor who portrayed Kramer in Seinfeld, would not host the current Jeopardy, but will remain executive producer of it and of the Wheel of Fortune. For that, do expect more guest hosts in season 38. Mayim Bialik, I've never been out. How do you pronounce her name? Will still host ABC's upcoming primetime Jeopardy shows and spinoffs. Your thoughts? Thanks for reading, and long live the PGS. Well, I think LeVar Burton should host Jeopardy. I'm just that guy. So, it was kind of unfortunate. I mean, you know what? You got to scrub your internet if you're up for a big job. But I think they made the right choice. I think that he shouldn't have been the host. That's just me. This letter comes from John Webb. John Webb writes in, Dear Rob, I was very pleased that you read my letter about my failure to teach my daughter some important lessons about how human animals behave. I was very pleased that Colin was inspired to write his own letter in answer to mine. This letter may meander a bit, but I hope it will be useful to you in the singularity. 1. I very much like your idea of trying to teach history from a personal story. I will try and find a good adaptation of Anne Frank's story to show to my 12-year-old daughter. Colin wrote in to question the use of stories themselves. This is an interesting topic. Does Star Trek present stories? The original series and later in the previous century, due to some extent, had their characters well defined at the start of an episode, and at the end of the episode, they were reset to their original positions. This was so that the TV audience, which TV executives didn't think a lot of, would be able to watch the series with reruns dropped in here and there, and in random order in syndication without getting a headache. But the stuff between the start and the end, well, that was a story. A self-contained story. Each original Star Trek series was a few pennies shy of 30 individual stories. You mean season, probably. You can talk all about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a Detective Comics Cinematic Universe, and for laughs, a Universal Monsters Cinematic Universe, or a Ghostbusters Cinematic Universe, but nothing can compare to a later 20th century televisual universe. As a teenager watching the original Star Trek, I had rock-solid knowledge of who those people were, who that ship was, and she was who, not a what. I strongly identified with Spock. I'll tell you about that in a future letter about the Galileo 7. And I was in love and lust with Uhura. Weren't we all? I imagined dozens of scenes of my own using those characters. It was easy because they were burned into my brain, having learned about them from their worlds and deeds in 70-9 individual stories. What about what we're calling television today? The original Trek had a first season with 28 stories and 29 episodes. Star Trek Discovery? It has one story which stretches over a season, swerving all over the road, and oh hell, only 2 episodes left. We better wrap things up. What the hell do we do up to this point again? You seem to like Loki, and I kind of like Captain America and Winter Soldier, but what the hell was the story? Again, we had our characters in a starting place and a place to finish them at. This time, the finishing point was different than the start. We needed them in place for the next movie. What happened between the 2 story points? Or what happened between the 2 points? Was it a story? Marvel series are interesting to me. There are strong characters, strong actors to carry the thing along, necessarily because there's really no story. What was Sam Wilson's story? I think he likes America, but I'm not sure. He at least likes things or thinks we can do better, Senator. What the hell is that? Anthony Mackie's great, but I wish his season finale didn't involve him dressing up like some crappy Hot Wheels car Halloween costume and point a finger in a senator's face. You know, Sam, if you were nicer to senators, maybe your sister could get approved for a loan. I'm not going to argue that Loki has no story. That's fish in a barrel. I'll just point out that the falling in love with a girl version of you was done a lot better on Seinfeld. Stories are, I think, very useful. But we just don't have any these days. My favorite TV shows of this millennium so far are Mad Men and BoJack Horseman. But, well, are even they stories? I'm not sure. They are at least not corporate machine crap for you to consume and want next product to consume and want next product to consume, but I don't know if they actually have stories. 2, you said that those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. This may be true. I'm not sure. Do historians lead unique lives unencumbered by the mistakes of their past? It is also said that an army is always prepared for the last war it fought. A nation prepared for armored warfare with planes prepared for hijackers is helpless against a small death cult armed with box cutters. History is a great thing, but like another great thing, Star Trek, it is useless in the hands of those without imagination or forward thinking. After I found my daughter uninterested in the lessons of history, World War II and the Holocaust, the American Civil Rights Movement, I thought, well, perhaps it takes 2 kinds of people to prevent history repeating itself. One kind studies history and tries to see the animal and psychological drives that need to be controlled. Another kind may be like my daughter, who looks at these past atrocities and can't even begin to understand them. I almost deleted that last paragraph. It's either nonsense or needs someone else to express it. 3, decades ago, I bought 2 DVDs before I had a player to watch them with. One was Vanilla Sky, a fascinating fantasy ride making no sense, but you don't notice it. You just let it carry you along. I had the same experience watching Us, another great ride. Amelie was like that too. Number 2, Monsters Ball, a gritty, artistically honest look at America and a love story. Much disliked by the young black people I was working with at the time, who said that Halle Berry shouldn't have made a movie with a white lover. If you know the movie, you may have noticed that the takeaway is that if you're going to get over your past, everyone in your family has to die or be put away. Well, okay, that's enough for now. Live long and prosper. I look forward to seeing Tango Shalom. I will mention a great Jewish movie, Avalon. Ooh, I love Avalon, which follows a Jewish family coming to America and how they adopt to America and how they interact with each other. This family's story is a parable of the history of Jews in America. I will not reveal the end. Perhaps you remember it, but very well worth watching. I love Avalon. I think Avalon's a great movie. An interesting letter, John. But yes, I mean, you know, Star Trek, while our main characters didn't change, usually the people in the episodes that they were involved with did. So the stories were told, and they were good stories. Nowadays, look, I think that, I've said this a million times, but I think Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard are a monumental failure of writing. They're both god-awful shows. And the writing of those shows has nothing of value to say from a storytelling standpoint. I understand a lot of people feel the shows have representation on them, and they like them for that very reason. And there's some people that just gobble up anything you slap a label on. I don't think Star Trek Picard or Star Trek Discovery resembles Star Trek in the least. I hated them both, down to the very core of my being. I think if they're going to make a new Star Trek show, give it to Jeff Rake. You know what I'm saying? We shall see. So, John, thanks for writing that letter. Much appreciated. Costas M. writes in. Costas M. Hi, Rob, and greetings from Greece. I hope you stay safe and have been well. And he attached a PDF with his letter. Hi, Rob and company, and greetings from Greece. Today is a sad day for me, and I would like to share my thoughts with you all. Today is the day that I read the last chapter of my favorite wuxia novel, Reverend Insanity. I would be surprised if any of you know about it, since this is a Chinese novel that was never actually published on paper. The novel has 2,334. The novel has 2,334, but it was banned back in September of 2019 from the Chinese government officially due to various undisclosed reasons. That's odd. But the fans speculate it is due to the dark contents deemed dangerous literature to Chinese, because the main character had huge monologues criticizing the system and governments of the Reverend Insanity's world. As you might have guessed, the Chinese government wasn't very fond of people drawing parallels between the protagonist criticizing the government of his world and the author criticizing them. Thus, the novel has been banned and removed from all formal official sources in China. As I said in my previous letter, which was a couple of months ago, none of my friends are into geeky stuff like I am, and I really wanted to talk to someone about this novel, so I thought the only place I could do that was here in the Post-Geek Singularity. So please allow me to bore you in the PGS for a few minutes with my thoughts. All right. What is Reverend Insanity, some of you might ask? Well, I could go on and on and on and write a letter big enough to fill your whole show, but I will try as much as I can to condense the information. Reverend Insanity, or Taoist Goo Master, as it is otherwise known, is a cultivation novel. If any of you have come across one in the past, you know what I mean. Basically, it's a novel where the characters cultivate to steadily gain power. The author gives this description about cultivating in this world. Humans are the spirit of all living beings, and goo are the essence of heaven and earth, the essence of the world itself. I think I need Zephyr Chan here on this one. You can think of it as a magician and his wand. The human is the magician, and goo is his wand. But in the goo world, there are countless species and an ever-increasing number of goo. There are wild goo. I'm saying this wrong. It's spelled G-U. There are wild goo and goo owned by humans, or goo masters as they're called. In nature, under the right conditions, goo can form from life forms such as insects. They live everywhere in the deepest crevasses of the earth, the highest of clouds, and on the bodies of wild beasts, and most dangerous of plants, and even in the dreams of man. Let me talk about the protagonist of the show for a bit. His name is Gu Yufang Wan. Formerly a scholar from Earth, he mysteriously transmigrated into the Gu world in which Reverend Insanity takes place. Initially, his family and the people of his village thought that Fang Wan was a genius due to his literal talent from his time at school in Earth. But when it was discovered that he had no talent for cultivation, Fang Wan is discarded by his family and his village, and thus began his long 500 years of adventure, where the constant betrayal, abuse, and exploration he suffered turned Fang Wan into a villain. A man with no emotions, no desires, and driven by a single goal, immortality. I should add here that in the goo world, while nobody has achieved immortality, it is possible to expand your lifespan through the use of goo worms and cultivation. But at some point, Fang Wan is betrayed yet again and ends up surrounded by the forces of justice. Before he dies, Fang Wan uses his newly acquired goo, the spring-autumn cicada, to travel back to the days of his youth. Now, with the knowledge of the future in his side, Fang Wan becomes the greatest demon of his era. He is someone who wreaks havoc wherever he goes in the pursuit of eternal life, scheming and fighting against powerful enemies and their organizations. This sounds dope. Most of what I mentioned happens in the first chapter, but I also wanted to give you a little bit of context about the character of the main protagonist. I will not spoil things for a few of you who actually want to read the novel, though I doubt that there's anybody who would if I judge from the people that I know. But the world building of this novel is amazing, and I'm not saying this just because I like the novel. The author's imagination blew my mind, and that is exactly why I fell in love with this novel. When it comes to a show, movie, series, comic book, manga, or a novel world building, I think I like that the most, and that's why I fell in love with this work. As I close this letter, I would like to thank you, Rob, for all the content you provide to us almost every day. I always try and watch every single one of your shows, whether it is here on your channel or over on John's. You have helped me through some tough periods of my life, and I hope you continue what you do for many years to come. Finally, I would like to share with you a poem that Fang Wan recites during one of his many challenges. How difficult is the perseverance of one person? All of the Goo immortals here could answer that question, because among them, some persevered because of responsibility, some persevered because of hatred, some persevered because of excitement, and some persevered because of love. And Fang Wan's answer? He was still expressionless. He continued to move forward relentlessly. I had once screamed gradually, but now I lost my voice. I had once cried gradually, but now I lost my tears. I had once grieved gradually, I became able to withstand everything. I had once rejoiced gradually, I became unmoved by the world. And now, all I have left is an expressionless face. My gaze is as tough as a monolith. Only perseverance remains in my heart. This is my own, an insignificant character, Fang Wan's perseverance. Kind regards, Costas. Well, Costas, what a fantastic letter. Now I want to read this book. Reverend Insanity. I haven't thought of it. Maybe Zephyr Chan or Willow Yang could hook me up. I don't know. But it sounds like a good book. It sounds like it's right up my alley. I would totally read that. I am down. I am down to read that. So, yeah. Why not? Bring it on. Where can I get it? Do you have a copy? Send it to me. Yellow Flash writes in. Mobile Suit Gundam, actually Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam, and the Tragedy of Escalation. This series was 50 episodes, so I thought the best way to express my thoughts on it was to break it down into 3 parts. Okay, so this is a Gundam series, by the way, begins with Char infiltrating the colony Green Noah, formerly known as Side 1, to gather intel on the Titan's new production of 2 MK2 Black Gundams. It's been 7 years since the 1-year war ended in the original Mobile Suit Gundam, and the former protagonist, Amuro Ray, is no longer in the spotlight for this particular series. I mean, what a gutsy move on Tamino's part. Or is it Tamino? Tamino. I always said Tamino, but it's probably not Tamino. Part to start a new Gundam series with a totally new main character, even for 1985 standards. The character designs by Yoshikazu Yashiko, and the mechanical designs by Kunio Okawara, may be some of the best works for that entire decade in regards to anime as a whole. I love the Titans. The only other ones that rival it or possibly surpass it are the designs done for the first Macross series, in my opinion. And man, the music with those gnarly mid-'80s guitar ballads and the opening song featuring diner rock throws the audience right back into the era of 85. I thought it was hilarious that the introduction to this new series rivalry between the show's protagonists, Camille Biden, and the new Titans ace pilot, Jared Mesa, was due to the fact that when Jared heard Camille's name being called by Fa Yuri, he blurted out that it sounded like a girl's name, Lamau. That's the whole reason this rivalry and hatred ensues for 49 episodes. In the beginning of this series, Camille comes off as different from Amuro, at least at first. He almost seems psychotic, sociopathic, and downright more selfish than Amuro ever appeared to be. To get revenge on a Titans officer that beat him up during an interrogation for his dust-off with Jared, Camille steals one of the 2 MK2 Black Gundams just so that he can stomp on that previously mentioned Titans officer. And the nihilist in me just loved that. As it's very well known, the show is one of the darkest of the entire franchise. Characters that you've been following for 2 seasons die left and right. Certain good guys start defecting over the bad guys' side, and the amount of civilian casualties mount up more and more and more and more. What makes this series so highly regarded amongst longtime casual and diehard fans of this franchise is that the main villain is now on the same side as the new protagonists of the show. Char, a man who destroyed numerous Earth Federation forces, ships, mobile suits, and bases, now aligns himself with the faction that tried to kill him 7 years prior. Again, another amazing plot device utilized by Tamino, if you ask me. However, the name for which Char calls himself for 2/3 of the series, and everyone knows it's Char because he wears the red jumpsuit and pilots a red mobile suit, duh, is Quattro Bagina. That name honestly sounds like an Australian porn star or something, and now he wears sunglasses. And I mean, he wears sunglasses all the time. In the main shuttle, inside the cockpit of his mobile suit, when he's in a cave miles below the surface of the Earth, and even when he's eating, laugh out loud. I suppose secrecy means a lot to this dude. One of the things I truly enjoyed about this particular series was how Char takes Camille under his wing. When Jared kills Camille's mother and Camille's father defects over the Titans, and I kid you the fuck not, because he wants to nail his side piece mistress and is ultimately killed in battle, Camille is left all alone. Char instantly becomes the surrogate big brother dad figure that Camille never had in his life. He teaches Camille to become a better new type pilot than himself and Amuro. Amuro Ray. So that's all I wanted to say for right now about this show, Rob. What are your thoughts when you first saw this one? Do you agree with others when they say this series was possibly the greatest in the entire franchise? I actually kind of do. There are certain characters that you like or dislike that immediately stick out to you. Thank you, as always, for taking the time to read my ridiculous letters. Sincerely, Yellow Flash. Well, Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam is generally considered to be one of the best Mobile Suit Gundam shows, and I highly recommend it. I love the series. I love the mecha designs in it. I'm a big fan, and I love Char. Char's amazing. And you're right, he never takes off his sunglasses. But those are badass sunglasses. No, I think the show's really good. If you never watched Mobile Suit Gundam, give it a whirl. And watch the first series and Zeta Gundam, and if you're not hooked, what's wrong with you? But there's going to be a live-action Gundam series, which I'm very curious about. I don't know how they're going to pull that off, but I'll watch it. I can't wait. So, yeah. Great letter, man. I always love when you write in. Your letters are always detailed about the characters and everything that's happening, which I do appreciate. Yes, I do. Let's see. Who's next? I got so many letters that I haven't even looked at. Thomas Bennett writes in. Thomas says, "Hey, Rob. Thanks for doing a Robservations on my birthday. I think movie studios need to change the way they look at profitability at the movies. The big four traditional book publishers of New York have the same problem. I'm not sure they see it as a problem, but it might just be a new way to screw creators. Before the pandemic, and even now, once a movie comes out in theaters, a movie is said to have succeeded or failed based on how the movie opens its first week. The truth is, a movie is an intellectual property with a copyright. Under the laws of the United States, copyright lasts from the day the author finishes the work until 70 years after the author's death. As a valuable commodity, a movie makes money first at the box office, then on Blu-ray and PVOD, or then on streaming. The 1999 film The 1999 film Office Space was considered a box office failure when it came out because it made $12 million on a $10 million budget at the box office. Office Space didn't find its audience until it started its run on Comedy Central, where it was shown a bunch of times. I don't know where the dollar amount stands right now, but I'm confident that the movie has made more than $40 million for the studio, and that puts it in the green at this point. Given the current landscape of the movie business, what would you negotiate to make sure, as a star of a movie, that you are getting the appropriate market value for your services? Would you want an executive producer title with a certain percentage of all PVOD and streaming deals? I'm friends with a couple of successful writers, and I've heard them say that it's a standard for a writer to negotiate a certain percentage of the budget of a project and not to expect any money beyond that point because of the creative accounting that Hollywood is famous for. Thanks for all you do. I won't be able to see Tango Shalom in theaters, but please let me know where I can buy it when it becomes an option. Well, October 29th, you'll be able to buy Tango Shalom on every single VOD platform. It will be everywhere, and I believe it then will go to a streaming service in the early 2022s. So if you can't get to a theater, and let's face it, it's only opening in New York and LA and all of Russia. Tango Shalom is opening all across Russia, so if you're, an expat watching the show in Russia, or if you're a native Russian speaker and you live anywhere in Russia, Tango Shalom is going to be everywhere, which I think is kind of cool, to be honest. I mean, considering I first learned about the levels of montage, Sergei Eisenstein, Battleship Potemkin, I learned how to edit from him. And so it's kind of neat that a movie that I edited is going to Russia. I like that, but this is a great letter. Okay, so you're asking a great question about money and movies. a movie can only sustain the how you. It really is based on the budget of a movie. So if I'll give you an example. I'll give an example. My own life. I produced a movie. I won't say which one. That had a $4 million budget. Of that $4 million, I am sure that I would say $1 million of that budget went to the production company that produced the film for various reasons. So there was basically, we made the movie for $3 million. Both the director of that film and I got the same, we were favored nations, we got the same amount of money. And I'll tell you, we made $75,000. I made $75,000 for my producing fees to produce a $3 million film. Now, I know people are going to say, well, that's not a lot. Well, the budget of the movie is $3 million, and you need as much money as you can to actually make the film. So the way people get paid is based on a percentage of the budget. But if you're making a movie that's only $3 million, there's not a lot of money to throw around. So even the leads of the film, I think that probably would make SAG scale, which, I mean, I don't know what that is, but it's not a lot. You know, it's not like we had some big star that we were paying a lot of money to. Although, but I'm giving you an actual, I'm giving you an actual figure from my life. Now, if you are doing multiple jobs on a movie, like say on Tango Shalom, I am a producer and an editor. But Tango Shalom isn't a good example because I'm not going to tell you what the budget of the movie is. Let's just say it was less than Titanic. There was a lot more sweat equity put into Tango Shalom as a movie than could ever be paid for on its budget. Tango Shalom is truly a low budget indie movie that only exists because a lot of idiots like myself put in literally thousands of hours into the creation of the film that were never compensated in any way, shape, or form, just through, I mean, I enjoyed it. It was, to me, Tango Shalom was more of a hobby. So, as a friend of mine said, in the film business, we've all become professional hobbyists. But yeah, so when you are getting paid because of studio accounting, see, what happens is it's hard to explain to people that if a studio makes a movie, they will charge their overhead sometimes, I mean, to every production. So let's say your overhead during the time a movie is being produced, like a Marvel movie or whatever, a Warner Brothers movie. And let's say the entire time it's going to take a year to make that movie, or 2 years, but let's just say a year. For the year that Warner Brothers is producing this movie, part of the budget of that film will go towards covering Warner Brothers' overhead. I mean, keeping the studio going. And rightfully so. The studio is supporting the making of the movie, but what Warner Brothers will do, and this is where the creative accounting comes in, every single one of those movies that Warner Brothers might make in a year, whether it's 10 or 20 movies, and this isn't always entirely true, I'm overly simplifying this, but Warner Brothers will have an overhead charge to every one of its film's budgets. So they're basically, you could be double dipping, quadruple dipping, 10 times dipping, but that's how, rightfully so, you have to look at each movie that is made as its own business. It's made under its own LLC. So each movie is an individual business, but there's only so much money that they have to make the film. So, you know, if you have large upfront fees, and a lot of these movies do, you know, you're paying your actors a lot of money. But I mean, that if you have a $100 million movie and you're paying, say, Gal Gadot to play Wonder Woman, and she's going to make 10, or Scarlett Johansson, it was reported that she made $20 million on Black Widow, and that was just her initial fee. That's a lot of money. That's a substantial percentage of any budget you've got there. You know, let's say it costs $200 million. I mean, $20 million that's on a $200 million budget. That's 10% of your budget. That's a lot. And you still have to make the movie. So yeah, when you make movies, it's probably a good bet that you're not going to see any more money unless the movie is so wildly successful that they can't hide it. So, yeah, it's an interesting way to run a business. But you know, if you do well, and if you're somebody in the business that your projects make money, you know, it can be lucrative and fun. The real place to make money, though, if you want to work in the entertainment business, is, well, television, network TV. It's not so much anymore with streaming, but you know, if you had a TV show that became an international monster hit, there's hundreds of millions of dollars to be made. A lot. I mean, things are changing. The economics are changing. But yeah, when you work on a movie, unless it's wildly successful, you should just assume that the money that you're going to make, that you were already paid to make the film, anything else is a bonus. That's what I tell people. That's why you don't get what you deserve, get what you negotiate, get paid, and know that that's probably the only money you're going to see from whatever project you're on. But you give it your all so you can get another project and make more money. At least that's how I tend to look at it. Jermaine K. writes in. Hello, Rob. Thanks for reading my previous letters. I know it's been a while since my last one. You'll be hearing from me more often in the future. I just finished Robservations 735, and Andrea's letter inspired me. First of all, I must say she's 100% correct about the lack of male role models in modern stories. Every story isn't making this mistake, but enough of them are that it's becoming very noticeable. What's even more disappointing is that some of our most beloved franchises are blatantly changing their lore to jump on this bandwagon. Recently, I was watching a video about Star Wars, and something hit me. Rey is the only protagonist in a major Star Wars movie to not suffer an injury, physical, mental, or emotional. Anakin had to leave his mom, attend his mentor's funeral, got a new mentor, gets embarrassed in a duel with Count Dooku, then gets most of his arm cut off. All that before his entire body is burned, and the reason he turned to the dark side, Padme already died anyway. Wow, that chosen one had it so easy. Did anything like that happen to Rey? No. Is Captain Picard sexist or racist at all in Star Trek The Next Generation? Not to me. Yet the show named for the character does a dramatic change to the character. Why? None of the core values of Star Trek are respected in that show, and it's easier to see than a neon sign in total darkness. Same is true for the new He-Man show, and from what little I know about it, Doctor Who. This is a weird time to be a fan, Rob. As an African American, I'm distressed to see segregation dressed up as something else. This isn't equality, that's for sure. Major respect to you for continuing to tackle these tough subjects. Take care. Well, Jermaine, I want to thank you for writing in. I don't disagree with you. I've talked about how I find the segregation on Star Trek Discovery is very bizarre to me. You know, you've got your black lead protagonist who ends up having a black boyfriend. The non-binary characters only confide in the gay characters. It's very odd. I don't get it at all. I mean, and they make it a big point to segregate those characters out. And I mean, first of all, 1,000 years from now, nobody, especially when human beings are spacefaring, no one is going to care at all about your sexuality or your personal disposition. No one's going to care. It's just going to be the normal state of being. Nobody, if you want to be a trans person, if you're trans and you want to transition, it'll probably be an afternoon with amazing surgery. Not a drop of blood is spilled, and boom, you're the way you want to be. And nobody will care. And as I said, you know, I do believe that there's going to be a time in the future where they will actually be able to pinpoint and say, okay, your brain shows us that indeed your brain has a different brain chemistry than the body that you were born in, and you are indeed a trans human being. And they will take care of that, and there will not be an issue, and nobody will care. Because we're 1,000 years in the future, and people will be like, I mean, we have interspecies. Humans are marrying Vulcans and having babies. I mean, it will not be a thing. So the idea that we're watching a Star Trek show where characters are literally segregated based on their color and sexuality 1,000 years in the future is a failure of epic proportions. And I understand. I get it. I understand everybody wants to be virtue signaling and everybody wants to be on the right side of history and all that. You're not. You're not. You're betraying storytelling. You're betraying your franchises, and you're betraying your characters. And most of all, you're betraying the audience. And I think it's a weird thing. But I know everyone wants to get on that bandwagon and say, hey, we got to be on the right. We have to do the right thing. I understand that the impulse is correct. So many people have not had a voice for so long throughout history, which has always been true. And so giving people a voice, telling the stories that need to be told, the stories that haven't been told, that is a very admirable goal, and I will stand behind it wholeheartedly. But you can't tell stories like that at the expense of others. You can't trade one oppression for another. You know, I watched a very inspiring montage of people speaking out at student or at what's when you're in school, like PTA meetings or something, but the school board meetings against critical race theory, which I believe is inherently racist. But it was interesting watching people of all shapes, sizes, colors, and creeds speak out against critical race theory because, it basically says you're born oppressed and you're born an oppressor. What is that? I don't know. Don't believe in it. I think it's racist to the extreme. And it is not helping anyone. What is helping people are getting people who haven't had a voice speak. Let that art flow. Let those new stories be told. I remember when I started reading Octavia Butler, she wrote like The Kindred. She was one of the great, or not The Kindred. She's one of the great modern voices in science fiction who happens to be a black woman. And if you're at all a science fiction fan and you like modern science fiction, you can't not read Octavia Butler. But I'm sure she didn't have a great time breaking into the sci-fi field. But, she's now essential reading if you're a science fiction fan. Do I care that she is a black woman? Did that have any effect on me reading her books? No. I just heard she was a great writer. We actually got to interview her for a documentary that never got completed for Chronicles of Narnia. It was the last interview she ever gave, and it kills me that those tapes are somewhere in the Disney vaults, and no one has ever seen that interview, which pisses me off. But anyway, yeah, you want great stories that are true to themselves, and I'm a big proponent of that. And I think, Jermaine, it's interesting to hear you as an African-American man, or do you prefer the term black? We don't even know anymore. Before, it was black, and then it was like, no, even though Martin Luther King preferred black, then it was African-American. Now we're talking about BIPOC and people of color. Seems like where are we going with this? I don't know. Look, I don't care what your gender is. I don't care what your sexuality is. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care what color you are. If you tell me a great story and give me great characters, that's all I want. I want your work. And I will never delineate what color you are, or your sexuality, your religious preference. It will not matter to me. You tell me a great story. You give me great characters, and I will read, I will watch, I will follow, I will play your video games. That's all I want. Give me great stories. Give me great characters that are true to themselves. Never put your agenda before your characters in your story, because it doesn't work, and it diminishes them all. But anyway, thanks for writing in, Jermaine. I appreciate it, which is great. Kenny McBride writes in, "Hi, Rob. Just a few quick thoughts, Star Trek thoughts I had, and I was curious to hear your thoughts on mine. Canceling Enterprise was a huge mistake. Toward the end, it was a very good show, compared to The Next Generation. That had 2 rough seasons before it got really good. So did Enterprise. A couple more seasons. The show, the upward swing it had been on, would have left it a good taste in everyone's mouths. Star Trek might well have got another new series, maybe with Rick Berman moving on and some other talent taking more control. As it was, it left a lot of people feeling a bit sour about the franchise. That left it vulnerable. The Abrams movies would have been better if they'd just been a whole different universe. The canon fuck of the Kelvin timeline has tainted everything since the first 10 minutes of the 2009 film. It broke everything before and since. Discovery just doubled down on that mess. The big problem with Discovery and Picard is that they're written about Star Trek, and they're not in Star Trek. Fan fiction would have been better, because even if it was stupid and terrible, it would have at least understood the universe it inhabited. Those shows made an ugly collage of Star Trek memes they don't even comprehend, soaked them in dim blue light and misery, then nailed it to your TV and called it art. Fucking man. In Discovery, if they wanted to make warp travel possible, why not follow up on the subspace wreckage that caused the warp speed limit in the last season of TNG? Maybe 1,000 years in the future, the whole galaxy is collapsing because more and more warp travel. Maybe there are wars over the last dilithium mines. Maybe a whole lot of angry species are coming to get the Federation for promoting such excessive warp travel that now threatens to destroy subspace across all 4 quadrants. Maybe we'll meet new species with new propulsion systems that can save the day. But that technology and those allies have their own cost. That's an interesting idea that can draw parallels with happenings in the real world, but it's perfectly congruent with things we already know about the Star Trek universe. The burn was embarrassing. Star Trek should be better than some chosen one child of infinite power bullshit. Live long and prosper, Rob, and kapla to the Post-Geek singularity. Kenny, thank you, buddy. That was very cathartic to read. I agree with you. I mean, look, I think it's all a failure of the imagination. I hated Picard. I hated the way they treated, the way they treated synthetic life. So all synthetic life is going to be humanoid. It's all going to be like bipedal humanoids. Like, that's so strange to me. And if they're machines, why would machines care about it? Just there's a malevolence. There's the Cthulhu AI out in the universe somewhere that's mad at the solids, like for doing what? For making machines. Like, the problem that I have with modern Star Trek can be summed up in the fact that they tried to anthropomorphize robots, androids, call them what you will, and then turn them into second-class citizens. And they're using the anthropomorphization of these creatures to make them relatable to us. It makes no sense. If you're going to have artificial life, why would it necessarily be human? Look like human beings? And why would it only... There's a lot of other things. You could have artificial life. You could have artificial drones that their job is to manufacture starships. You know, and they would know what to do, and they would be able to figure things out, and you'd unleash a fleet of them, and they would build starships much faster than... I don't know. I mean, there'd be all... The idea that they've anthropomorphized AI into human form shows how stupid the writers of Star Trek Picard and Discovery really are. Why would a life form, why would you want to be? Why would an AI want to look like a human being? We're not exactly the most elegantly designed creatures in the universe. Why would you want to be locked into human form? It's all so stupid. It had no one thought it through. They just ripped off things. Oh, well, we'll get it because, the Terminator back in the 80s. Sarah, just terrible. Really bad. Everything about modern Star Trek is... Because it's as if no one read science fiction. They've only seen other movies and TV shows, so they've never actually delved into the idea of what an AI is. I mean, somebody wrote in today on the John Campea show and asked about Hyperion, the novel Hyperion. I mean, you know what? I think every writing staff who's working on a genre show should have to read at least one classic novel in whatever genre they're working in. So science fiction, if you're going to write on a science fiction show, whether it's The Expanse, hopefully you read those books, but beyond you've got to read a classic science fiction novel. I would say to anybody who is going to write Star Trek, read Dan Simmons' Hyperion Cantos. Read Hyperion and Fall of Hyperion, which were written as one book. There is more interesting ideas in the pages of Hyperion, and together it's almost like 900 pages or something, than in the last 15 years of Star Trek. There would be a million different story ideas generated by even a cursory glance of that book. And that's just one book. Every writer who writes on a science fiction show should read one classic science fiction novel. I guarantee you, if you're going to start talking about computers and AI, read Neil Stephenson. Read Snow Crash. You want to read a book that's great? I guarantee you, any of you right now, I defy you to read the first 2 pages when hero protagonist has to deliver Uncle Enzo's Cosa Nostra pizza. I defy any of you to read the first 2 pages of Snow Crash and not want to read the whole thing. It's that delish. It's delish. There's more imagination on the pages of that book than most of the things you'll ever read, or watch for that matter. So, that's what I wish. I just wish, and by the way, if I was ever fortunate enough to run a writer's room, like if I was going to run, say, if my comic, that I self-published, here's a copy of it, Living in Infamy. Here's my comic, Living in Infamy. I published this. Ben Rabb and Derek Hughes wrote it. We've been trying to get it made as a TV show for a long time. If I was ever fortunate enough to get Living in Infamy made, John Cassidy did this cover, by the way, I would demand that the writers, anybody who wrote on the show, would be given a reading list of 25 graphic novels, and they would have to read them. That I would demand that. So we all have reference points that we're all coming from the same place. So anyway, Kenny, love this letter. I wish Enterprise had gone on another season. I think they did too. If it had gotten the kind of ratings it was getting now, it'd probably still be on the air. It's too bad. It's too bad that we didn't get that. It's a bummer. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, oh, happy days. Not only did I get to talk about Manifest, but I've got a letter from Willow Yang. Yes, I do. And it's a good one. It's a doozy. Willow Yang. This means she's at the end. She's gotten to the end of Enterprise. This letter is about These Are the Voyages, the last episode of the Berman era of Star Trek. I mean, maybe you could say Star Trek Nemesis. I think this is it. Shutting the door on the Rick Berman era of Star Trek is this episode of Enterprise, These Are the Voyages. And Willow Yang is here to talk about it. Greetings, Rob. I am writing to give my thoughts on These Are the Voyages, the highly controversial final episode of the fourth and last season of Star Trek Enterprise. To give a recap, several years after the events of Terra Prime, aka the episode that should have been the finale, the crew of the Enterprise are preparing to return to Earth, where Archer is set to give a speech. And then Riker shows up, and it's revealed that the episode is actually taking place during the Next Generation's The Pegasus, and everything we're seeing is a holographic recreation of the events. Riker, while debating on whether to tell Picard the truth about Admiral Pressman, has taken up the role of the chief on board the Enterprise and interacts with the holographic versions of the crew. The Enterprise is contacted by Shran, who supposedly died a few years earlier. Shran reveals that he had faked his own death and he had a secret daughter who has now been kidnapped. Archer, who still owes Shran a debt from years ago, agrees to help. He rescues Shran's daughter, but a few of the kidnappers board the Enterprise and threaten to kill him. Trip, going against Archer's orders, offers to bring the kidnappers to Shran, but instead overloads two conduits to create an explosion, killing the intruders and mortally injuring himself in the process. He dies and the crew mourns for him. Archer returns to Earth and gives a speech with Riker and Troy watching. Riker tells Troy that he is ready now to speak to Picard. The episode ends with a montage of different ships named Enterprise, with Picard, Kirk, and Archer reciting the Where No Man Has Gone Before prologue, The End. Deep breath. It says it right there. Deep breath. I know that many fans have been less than impressed, to put it mildly, by the Enterprise finale, and I really hate to jump on the hate bandwagon. I will say one good thing about These The Voyages. As just a standalone episode, I do not think it was all that bad. We've seen Star Trek experiment with and use different methods of storytelling. Voyager has done a similar trick with its episode Living Witness, where an event was told entirely through a holographic simulation hundreds of years after the adventures of the main crew. Being a fan of TNG, which remains my favorite of the Star Trek series thus far, I got a kick out of seeing Riker and company. My favorite moment in the episode is actually when Troy tells Data, who is only heard and not seen in the episode, that she'll give him a rain check, which Data, of course, took literally. I do also think it was pretty clever to have Riker play the role of the mysterious chef, who was, of course, never seen on screen. Of course, I do find his appearance to be a bit jarring. The episode was supposed to take place during the Pegasus, and, well, Jonathan Frakes has definitely gotten older in the 10 years between that episode and the finale of Enterprise. Furthermore, and I don't know if it's the actors or just the audio, but his voice and also Troy's sound noticeably different. Like In a Mirror Darkly, I do not think These Are the Voyages is something that can really be appreciated by those for whom Enterprise is their first venture into Star Trek. However, I do think that some fans may find enjoyment in the episode. Unfortunately, however, These Are the Voyages is not just any regular episode. It's the last episode to come out of Star Trek Enterprise before the series was canceled. The finale. And I can say unequivocally that These Are the Voyages is by far the worst finale of any of the old Star Trek series I've seen thus far. I still haven't seen Voyager's Endgame, and yes, I'm including the original series Turnabout Intruder. It just reeks of nothing but utter and complete desperation, of the creators of Enterprise not believing in this series, not allowing the characters to be able to stand on their own. You're seriously going to end this entire show with the main crew, the characters whom the audience has been following for 4 whole seasons, being pretty much delegated to supporting roles? You're seriously going to show the death of one of the main characters in a holodeck recreation? The crime goes even deeper than that, however. It is very clear throughout the episode that Riker and his interactions with the holographic versions of the various Enterprise crew had an impact on their actions. One prime example is when Riker questions T'Pol on whether she has romantic feelings for Trip, and T'Pol later, as a direct result of that conversation, brings the subject up with Trip. There's also the incident where Riker asks Mayweather if Trip has ever come to blows with Archer, except he accidentally said Picard. So not only has all of the Enterprise characters been completely sidelined in their own series finale, but the scenes we're being shown aren't even accurate recordings of what has taken place. I'm seriously at a loss for words. The people behind this episode might as well have just stuck in their middle fingers up to the screen and filmed that for 45 minutes. Because that is literally what the episode is to fans of the series and the characters. Enterprise isn't popular. Nobody likes Enterprise. Do you know what people like? TNG. Let's just create a TNG episode instead of an actual send-off for Enterprise. Insert Picard facepalm meme here. As I've stated earlier, if judged just on its own merits, I do not think that These Are the Voyages is all that horrible. I do think that the episode could have been a bit more creative with its imagining of the fates of the main characters. It's been 10 years since the Enterprise first took flight, and everyone's still in their exact same roles. I've complained about the fact that Kim has never gotten a promotion on Voyager, but apparently Hoshi and Mayweather are still also ensigns after 10 years of service. Furthermore, I don't think that the death of Trip or any other main character should be depicted in some holodeck simulation. It's just not a satisfying send-off. If These Are the Voyages had come out in the middle of the 4th season, I would have regarded it as a fairly average episode, a middle-of-the-road story that's told using an interesting framing device and a good heavy dose of nostalgia and fan service. However, as the finale to Enterprise, it just does not work and comes across as being nothing more than a slap in the face of those who have invested in the show. Enterprise should have concluded on Terra Prime. Live long and prosper, Willow. I love it when you come out guns blazing, Willow. I totally agree with you. You know, when we were shooting the cast roundtable for Enterprise, we had all the cast and Brandon Braga moderating it. He came out, and the first thing he did was he apologizes to the cast for These Are the Voyages. They know how terrible that was. They know it. And, yeah. So, I think you're absolutely right. And it was a total bummer. But another great letter. For those who like Willow's letters, you can find more of her letters on the Burnettwork.net website under Willow Talk. So thank you for that, Willow. Fantastic. Another great letter. Now, let's see. I'm going to jump over and see what you guys are saying in the live chat. Now, I've missed a few chats, and I'm going to go back and capture them over the last couple days because, one, I was another one of those drunken stupors on Saturday night, which I'm not going to do anymore. You know, I will still do Midnight Metal, but I'm not going to get sloppy drunk. It ruins my credibility and ruins my health. So, you know, I'm just going to stick to drinking Pellegrino, maybe some wine, but it's just, you know, people don't watch sloppy drunk Rob. Come on. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. So, let's see. Let's start. And you know what? God bless you, Willow. Willow's here first. Willow says, I haven't watched any of Manifest. But come on, Rob, have faith. I'm sure that the creators and writers have a plan, and it will all be revealed in this final season. Laugh out loud. You know what, Willow? Hope springs eternal, does it not? Jeff Rake, come on the show. Talk Eternals with me, brah. Jeff Yerke, our man Jeff Yerke, and Mrs. Y, the man who loves his wife more than anyone I know. He never leaves. He doesn't even go to a comments section on a YouTube show without her. And you got to find that pretty endearing. I do. Jeff says, how's your back, by the way, buddy? Jeff says, hi, Rob. Thoughts on Suicide Squad? A pleasant enough film, but we've seen many of these tropes too many times. Scribes need to work harder for originality. Miss Robbie is now a full-fledged movie star. The direction was good, but the story plodded along. Live long and prosper. The Yerk Man. I liked it. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't, I mean, you're getting a lot more James Gunn, which I liked. So thank you for that. Sends in a sticker, and sent in a diamond super chat. And Ricky B sent in a super chat as well. Ray Valero sent in a super chat. Tom Jr. Jackson sent in a super chat. Wow, you guys, that's very generous of all you. You didn't even ask questions. You're just sending me super chats. That's so nice. Nemo Nova sent in a super chat and says, one of the best Twilight Zone episodes, The Odyssey of Flight 33, with the great John Anderson as the pilot of the plane. Those of you who might know who John Anderson is because he was in the 3rd season Next Generation episode, The Survivors. He also played Jonathan Frakes' dad in North and South. I love The Odyssey of Flight 33. There's a lot of manifest in that. There's a lot of that. Yes, and I'm sure Jeff Rake, you know you were thinking of The Odyssey of Flight 33. You know it. I know it. You know it. Simon writes in. Is this the Simon? How you doing, buddy? Simon says, shh. Do you hear it? Rob, do you hear it? Wait, I can smell it. Can you, Rob, smell it? Oh, no, I can see it. The manifest is back. I better not swallow 10 gallons of water. Yeah, man. That I'll tell you, that last moment in season 1, what the hell? What the hell? Some old guy in Hawaii says alien ghosts from the future. Why not? That would make just as much sense as anything else. Alex K says, I want everyone here to know what's really going on. I pay. Oh, this is from Alex K. Sends in a tip. Alex K says, I want everyone here to know what's really going on. I pay Rob very well to talk trash about Star Trek Discovery, and he gets paid by the word. Rob actually secretly loves the show and masturbates to every episode with glorious shame. No, you know what? That is untrue, Alex K. I will tell you that I am not above finding myself with a throbbing erection when I look at my Enterprise models. Just want you to know. Yes, the sight of the Enterprise, those warp nacelles do it for me every time. But I will say this. I can honestly tell you, I have never felt any kind of urgings or stirrings or blood traveling anywhere in any tissue when I watch either Discovery or Picard or the Kelvin movies. I can assure you of that. So, Alex K., I see what you did there. Jay Bling says, when will we see the return of short takes? Waiting for my Baywatch letter to get one so I can be the target of more focused mockery. You know what? That letter was awesome. I should make that into a short take. That should be, yeah. Bert, you know what? That's a good idea. Your Baywatch letter was good. I got to figure which episode. What episode was that in? I'll go cut it out and make it a short take. Bert sends in a super chat and says, Rob, amazing show. I enjoy your content. Thank you, Bert. If I'm going to be visiting Hollywood and Highland, where do you recommend watching a movie like Shang-Chi? Well, you're in luck, Bert, because at Hollywood and Highland, that is where, just go down the street, down a half a block, the Chinese theater's there that was converted to an IMAX. I know people say it's like an IMAX. No. The Chinese theater IMAX screen kicks ass. Its laser projection is awesome. The thunderous sound is incredible. And I, too, will be going to see Shang-Chi again with Elizabeth at the Chinese. I would go to the Chinese, watch it in IMAX. It was shot in IMAX. And my God, go see it there. Angela Dashner sends a... Well, Angela, that is an incredibly generous super chat you have sent me. And Angela Dashner is a fine name. But you didn't ask a question. But thank you so much. Thank you for being so generous. That's very nice of you. That's a very nice super chat. What did I hope I can live up to that. Angela Dashner. I really like that name. You know, I knew a girl named Angela once, and I met her at. I mean, I've known a lot of girls named Angela, but there's one girl in particular that I remember, and her last name was Toohey, Angela Toohey, Tuohy, and she was from Chehalis, Washington, and her family owned a McDonald's. Like if you went to and you had to, so if you're going down I-5, and I met her in summer camp, and then she was almost ethereal in her beauty. She was an unbelievably beautiful girl that had this incredible voice. Again, I think the last time I saw her was I was in college. And the last time I saw her was rather memorable. I won't get into it here, but it was memorable. And yeah, so, but she's probably my favorite Angela I knew. So thank you for the generous super chat. But yes, Angela Toohey, Tuohy. But yeah, I met her at the Flying Horseshoe Ranch. And by the way, there is a Grand Dude Ranch down in Teanaway Valley where deer and elk are playing right near my front door. I know, I won't get into it. I think, though, that embarrassingly, if I ever saw Angela Toohey again, she might remind me of the white, wide-leg Britannias I was wearing to, like, the dances we had on the weekends. I don't know. Be terrible. Maybe. It wasn't a good look, people. It wasn't a good look. But it was fun. Angela Toohey. Angela Dashner, thank you for that one. Angela Toohey. Yes, now I'm whatever happened to her? You know, it's one of those things where you ever do those things where you go and look for people, like whatever happened to them, like girls that you liked, you know, and like just to find out, like they're all probably married and have kids and stuff. Like, what are they doing? But there's a lot of people in your past that aren't on social media. I'm surprised by this. I don't know why. But then you can't find them. And then I always think my go-to position is like, oh, those people passed away or something. But yeah, it's like I had a friend, a guy I knew named Jimmy Fiddler. And I'm like, whatever happened to Jimmy Fiddler? I spent an entire summer in South Carolina with Jimmy Fiddler and his sister Trish. Was it Tish? Tish? I think it was Trish. Maybe it's Tish. But yeah, Angela Dashner made me think of Angela Toohey. I don't know. So that's all good. But thank you for that. Lieutenant Commander Salinga. Wait a minute. Wait. I jumped out. Wait. Hang on. Sheriff Carl. Dude, speaking of the P&W, brah, how's Seattle, dude? Now that I'm thinking about Seattle, I'm thinking about, back in the day. Sheriff Carl says, welcome back, motherfucker, 666. New Iron Maiden record Friday. Yes, there is. And how exciting is that, man? I'm excited. Thanks, by the way, for representing for the P&W. By the way, you know what? It was nice. Portland's problematic, but it was nice to be back. I haven't been back to Seattle in a long time. I was back. Well, I got to go back. I need to go back to Seattle. That's from a Mix-a-Lot song. Lieutenant Commander Salinga says, in March, it got reported by this site that DS9 is going to be remastered by CBS and Secret Hideout. Did you hear anything about this? I did. The Vulcan reporter, first of all, I did some digging, and I could not find any verification that was going to happen. Now, I would say this. It took 4 years for the next generation to be remastered in HD, doing it properly. It had a team of people at CBS Digital, and then they outsourced it a lot. It took a long time for it to be done right. And a long time. So, yeah. I think the Akutas would have to be involved. I mean, they were involved in the restoration of TNG, and then Enterprise was also. It was shot in HD, but they had to remaster all of that too. So, yeah. I haven't heard anything about it, and it would take a long time to do it correctly. You can't do it with AI. You've got to go back to the negative, and now they should remaster it in 4K. How great would that be? I'd love it. But yeah, I when I read that report, I did some digging, and I didn't find anything out. Louis Terrazas says, Rob, imagine a wild remake of Logan's Run where all genders and sexuality are interchangeable at the whim of a button. It would be interesting. Well, you know what? That's not a bad idea. I think that they in the original movie, the New You shop. But there's been so many attempts. When I was working on Superman Returns, Bryan Singer was very close to doing a remake of Logan's Run that had been rewritten by Christopher McQuarrie. It was pretty interesting, and it was set in an orbiting, like Gundam, like an orbiting side. It was an orbiting environment like Babylon 5. It's pretty cool. Wow, Victoria O sends in a tip. Now, Victoria O has always sent me a few she's sent spicy emails before, spicy tips. Victoria says, "Oh, Mr. Burnett, I'm a delicious, wild Latina T-girl near Silver Lake who happens to love movies and your show. I know you have a girlfriend, but I find your openness to be so hot. I feel welcome here, and I wish I could meet someone like you to roleplay Star Trek. Well, Victoria, you know, everyone is welcome here, and I certainly appreciate you here. And you know what? I've met in my time delicious, wild Latina T-girls. And I would have to say, you know, if I wasn't, I'm you know, I have a girlfriend now. I'm in a relationship, so, but you know, that's not something I would necessarily shy away from. And so, welcome. You're always welcome here. You know. Anyway, now watch all people like, wait, what? Come on, man. Have you seen, as she is describing herself, delicious, wild Latina T-girls? Have you seen some of them? Smoking hot. And, you know, maybe they could teach you a thing or two. You never know. I'm open to all kinds of experiences. Louis Terrazas comes back and says, Rob, I know you already said it, but I want you to prepare again for the conversation when it comes up on John Campier's show. I've had your back this whole time, and now it's on every channel. For example, Grace Randolph says that her sources 100% confirmed Professor X to be in Doctor Strange 2. All this time, Campia has screamed every time us fans bring up X-Men. We bring it up because we love the X-Men, especially for my generation who only knew them as our superheroes besides Batman and Superman. I can't wait, dog! Well, Louis, as I've told people on the show before, for me, the X-Men were kind of my comic book equivalent of Star Trek. Like, I love the X-Men. You know, and I started reading X-Men probably around issue 150. I mean, it was right after Byrne left. I mean, I went back and got the Byrne issues, but then I read on because it was like, you know, the Brood was around that time, and was it? I think Paul Smith was drawing it. But I love the X-Men. But I'm of the opinion that they should just introduce the X-Men. The X-Men have always been there, you know, and we just haven't seen them yet because they're not out, so to speak. They're not out. And you know, when they say Professor X is going to be in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I could see that it's a look. They already showed us Quicksilver. That was some dope ass shit. Where that came from, why that was happening, I have a theory. Obviously, Spider-Man: Far From Home took place at the end of Spider-Man: Far From Home. We see J. Jonah Jameson. We see J. Jonah Jameson from the Raimi Spider-Man movies. And I think that whatever reality warping, whatever multiverse tears were happening, were already happening. WandaVision takes place at the very beginning. It takes place mere weeks after Thanos, his snap returns everyone. Spider-Man: Far From Home is almost 8 months later. So I think that there was all kinds of multiversal rippage and shenanigans happening that we just didn't know about. So, yeah. I don't know if he's going to be. I mean, I've heard someone say that Spider-Man: No Way Home is dealing with the Spider-Verse, the Sony Spider-Verse, and that the Multiverse of Madness is going to be dealing with the X-Verse from Fox, which is interesting. It's an intriguing proposition, but you know, I think they're spending. If that's the case, they're spending too much time. They've really got to seal off this. They acknowledge these things were there. It's interesting. They can incorporate them, but it's too. I don't know. I mean, I like it, but it's. I don't know. It's too much. It's too much. Andy. Oh wait, no. Lieutenant Commander Salinga comes back and says, "I totally understand the motive behind Enterprise's These the Voyages, making it a send-off show for the whole Berman era of Trek. My problem with it, its storytelling just feels like a clip show without being one." Totally agree. I totally agree. It was not good. I was not digging it. Did not. Does my hair look like I dumped it or dipped it in some weird blonde? I don't know. It looks strange to me. Maybe the light's too bright in here. Something. But yeah, I didn't like it. It all felt off. Even when you see, as Willow pointed out, when you see Riker and Troy, they're like, you're almost like watching Marina Sirtis and Jonathan Frakes cosplaying their own characters. It was just weird. The whole thing was weird. I didn't like it. And I think, Demons and Terra Prime is such a strong two-parter. So intriguing. So good that it's a bummer that that's how it sucked. Andy LDN says, Manifest is saved. I'm worried it's gone to Netflix. Will they push Ben back and bring Micah forward? I hope Jake and the team retain control. I think they will. They're gonna have to keep going. They're gonna have to keep going, the way they are. Because I don't want it. I want my Manifest the way it already is. I don't want them to change. But who knows? I think we're gonna see a lot of changes because they're coming. 20 episodes. They got to do a lot. Our friend Paul in Long Beach, one of our resident comedians. Damn you, Rob. You know I loathe going north of Chick Hearn Boulevard, but you're going to force my wife and I up the 405 to Pico and Westwood this weekend. Congrats, my friend. Cannot wait. Well, Paul, for those of you who don't know, a movie I produced and edited called Tango Shalom is opening in Los Angeles. And if you, Paul, we were going to meet up 2 summers ago. Why don't we all have a meetup? We should have a Post-Geek Singularity meetup. Now, I was going to go to Encino, which is not much further away, but it'd be fun. If people want to go see Tango Shalom, we should all have a meetup. Either at the West Side Pavilion, or we could do two. We could do a meetup on Saturday and a meetup on Sunday, because wouldn't that be dope? For those of you who don't know, we were having a big red carpet premiere on the night of the 1st, this Wednesday night, which because of COVID concerns and a lot of Ed Asner was going to come to the premiere, and he sadly passed away. But we decided, because a lot of the friends of Renee Taylor and Joe Bologna's that were going to come to the red carpet are just, not to put a fine point on it, but they're older. And we all didn't want to be responsible for anybody, getting sick. But if you want to have a meetup, we should. If anybody's interested, send me a letter at theburnetwork.net. Let's do it. Paul, let's do it. Let's go have lunch somewhere and have some drinks and go watch Tango Shalom. And all of you will look at it and go, that was good. That was fun. Because that'd be fun. Tom Jr. Jackson. How's it going, Tom? I missed you, buddy. It says, your thoughts on my science project and Miracle Mile. Okay. Steve DeJarnett directed Miracle Mile. Steve DeJarnett went to the Evergreen State College, where I actually went before I moved to California and went to USC. If you guys haven't seen Miracle Mile, all you need to know is Goose is in it. He stars in it, and Mayor Winningham is in it, one of the peripheral Rat Packers that was in St. Elmo's Fire. And it's about a budding romance between the two of them. And if you've never seen Miracle Mile, don't read anything about it. Don't go to Wikipedia right now. Don't do that. If you haven't seen Miracle Mile, trust the Bobster here. Trust R&B when he tells you. All you need to know is it's a romance about two people meeting in the city, in Los Angeles. That's all you need to know. I first saw that movie at the Seattle International Film Festival, and let's just say there was one point in that movie where I think my jaw hit the floor. That's all you need to know. My science project is okay. They're like they were, they had those like the spate of movies like My Science Project, and that like kids were getting involved in super science, and it was good. I didn't love it. As far as 80s movies go, I don't love it, but it was good. It was fun. I liked it. But Miracle Mile, both worthy. I saw on social media that you picked those up, which is great. By the way, for anyone interested, my 4K Severin Blood of Dracula did finally arrive today. I got after I did Let's Get Physical Media, the lovely Emma Bannon hooked me up with the Jaws 2 Steelbook. My box from Severin came. I'm like, come on, man. Well, at least there's next week, right? Lieutenant Commander Salinga goes on to say, your analysis of the TNG Writer's Bible deserves a short take. It is must-see content for every Star Trek fan. In general, the TOS and TNG Writer's Bibles by Roddenberry deserve much more attention and debate. I agree. They also need to be paid more attention to by anybody writing, Star Trek. Hopefully, Terra Metalis... look, I have to say, I'm actually curious about Season 2 of Picard. One, because I couldn't hate season 2 more than I hate season 1 of Picard. I mean, I still have to deal with those fucking lame characters, and the fact that Picard's dead and we're watching his robot facsimile. But, you know, I'm hoping it's good. I find some of it to be what I've heard intriguing. Fingers will be crossed. Terry Matalas worked with Brandon Braga, which could be a good thing or a bad thing, let's face it. So, I don't know. I hope it's good. Maybe. Maybe it will be. Maybe it won't be. God sent me a tip for $6.66. God, I love that. You've got a sense of humor. God sends me a tip and says, Rob, I've seen people talking about a Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy movie starring Margot Robbie and Megan Fox. Oh, why doth thou tempt thee? If people can't resist eating apples, they might eat poison ivy. Such treachery can only lead to more seasons of Picard. Listen, God, all I know is that you move in mysterious ways, and I don't know what to tell you about that. I don't know. You know, what can I say? S-Beam, a man, S-Beam. S-Beam says, hi, Rob, how's it going? I just wanted to say thanks, and my channel has been growing well, due in part to the great community that is the Post-Geek Singularity. Thank you. I hit 40 subscribers this week. General Grievous arrived today. The review will be up tonight. Well, first of all, everyone, look, 40 subscribers. Everyone who's watching the show right now, there's what, 242 people here now? Everyone jump over to S-Beam's channel and subscribe. He's the guy that's making a 12-inch Rob Burnett action figure. Obviously, people know S-Beam. I did get, if you saw the very exuberant video I posted last night, I did get my Jazz Inc. Millennium Falcon cockpit, which is, I will be having a video of it go up soon. I finally can open up my Hot Toys Han Solo and Chewie and put them in. I'm going to do a whole unboxing video, so you'll see. It's amazing. So, yeah. Sheriff Carl says, damn, dude, fucking Chehalis. Seattle is nice and gray today. Condos aplenty and the smell of weed everywhere. Just saw the house behind mine is selling for $1.6 million. And yes, New Maiden is always the most exciting shit. Up the irons and let's party. You know what? Maybe that's what we'll celebrate on Midnight Metal with on Friday. We'll celebrate the release of Iron Maiden's new album. I mean, what's more metal than that? It was nice to be back on PNW. Chehalis, you know, it's funny. I mean, my parents, my father and my grandmother used to have a jewelry store in Chehalis. Like, I want to say it was like in the 50s or something. And so I had heard about that. But now, you know, when you meet a girl from someplace and, you know, she leaves an impression on you, Chehalis to me will forever and always be associated with Angela Tui. Wherever she is, wherever she became. I don't know. I'm, you know, Chehalis, Angela Tui. They go together like chocolate and peanut butter for me. I hope Angela Tui is well. I hope she's alive and thriving and has probably a bunch of kids and beautiful daughters and lovely sons and all that. But Chehalis, yeah, man. I liked it. It was a little gray in Portland the day I left. Sun came out, but it was awesome. Now, I'm going to go back and I've missed... I want to go back and try and catch up or find these super chats I missed because I was too drunk. Normally I don't get that drunk, except I have been, which isn't good. Let's see. I'm going back. Clint Baker says, dude, I saw Amelie in the theater, and it might be the best movie I've ever seen. Clint, it's in my top 10 of all time. Maybe top 20, but I love Amelie. The two movies that are in my top 20 of all time, Robbie Burnett's favorite movies of all time, Amelie is one of them, and Cameron Crowe's Almost Famous is another. Now, I have to say, I mean, I think Amelie is an incredible, incredible film. But I do... like, when I think about the greatest movies of all time, I don't know if it belongs in the pantheon of great movies of all time. I mean, for me personally, it spoke to me on a level. Yeah. Clint Baker also said, Dave, meaning Dave Parker, you're a badass. I just want to get your credit. Thanks for being awesome. Norwegian Kryptonian said, what if Supergirl and Thor did the horizontal swing and got a child? What should they call it, and how metal would a demigod Kryptonian be? Well, I think a demigod Kryptonian would be absolutely metal. Who wouldn't love that? What would you call him? Or her? I don't know. I'd have to think about that. Clint Baker goes on to say, I'm way more excited about the Eternals and Shang-Chi than I am about the new Spider-Man. I could see that. I understand that. By the way, 200 Watt Studios says, will there be a physical media today? Yes, there was. And you were there. So thank you for that. 200 Watt Studio says the best sequels are Erotic Ghost Story 2 and Sex and Zen 2. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. I could definitely see that. That's good. Yeah. I don't know if they're, come on, better than Empire Strikes Back or Godfather 2. Sonny Dominguez, our friend Sonny, who we should have, Sonny Dominguez was talking about having a PGS meetup, which is probably, I mean, Sonny, if you're watching this now, we should, to go see Tango Shalom. Sonny says, love Dave on the show. You are both men who have experienced the pleasure of life, sex, drugs, and booze-filled adventures. Thus gives an underground radio vibe. Has your fandom ever lost you a lady because she viewed it as childish or immature? Sonny, I know this is more of a Midnight Metal question, but yes. I think I've told this story before, but when I used to live on Doheny, just inside the Beverly Hills city limits. That is not a humble brag or anything. I'm not flexing. My mom came and visited me once. She goes like, this isn't Beverly Hills. I'm like, no, au contraire, Mom. I walked her down to the very end of the street where it says Beverly Hills city limit. But there was a girl that I had met. Her name also was Elizabeth. I won't use her last name. But I really liked her. And she came over to my house. And we had a very nice evening. And then the next day she says, listen, this is true story. And so right by my bedroom, where my bed was, the last thing you saw was there was a Billy bookcase, like the Billy bookcase is behind me. And I had all of I don't know what this says about me, but I had all of the Playmates 9-inch Star Trek action figures, like different shelves for different shows and stuff. And she couldn't hang with that. And she's just like, I can't come over here. I can't, these plastic people freak me out. It happened. So there you go, Sonny. End of that. I guess, when you walk into some dude's house, and I have to say, so this would have been definitely 26. I was 26 or 27. There's no way that some girl was going to make me take down my Star Trek action figures. No way. But she was damn cute. Michael Preston says, hey, Rob and Dave, love that you're back. You're so happy that Manifest has been saved by Netflix. I miss you guys so much and can't wait to see Tango Shalom. Michael, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Come on down. Let's do a party. Let's organize it. We'll do a viewing party Saturday and Sunday. We should do one. I'll do one. We can go if you are closer to Encino. Like in the Valley, Sonny Dominguez would be closer to the Encino version rather than schlepping it all over to the West Side Pavilion on Pico. We don't have to do that, but come on down. Let's do it. Clint Baker says, I'm way more excited about the Eternals. I said that already. Yeah, me too. Danny California says, it's a shame some people will never understand just how big Guns N' Roses were at one point in time. I know. Saberwolf says, I still can't wait to see Morbius. Vampires are metal. I can't wait. Clint Baker says, dude, I've missed out on playing in both Prague and Germany. Rob, send me a link. I'll jump in. This is probably when Dave left. Hayden Sane says, watch Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon for the first time. It only took a couple of decades. So beautiful in so many ways. Metal as hell. It was, wasn't it? Eric O'Sullivan sent in a super chat and says, I got the Soul of Chigokin GX57 Yamato and it's worth every cent. You're right about them and Eagle Moss. I get joy looking at them. I'm dropping my first unboxing video later. Thanks to you and as gratitude. Eric, I'd love to see that. Mine's right over there. It's also next to Captain Harlock's Arcadia, which was also a Soul of Chigokin version. But yeah, you're right. And then we got Justin Toner. So I think I caught up on the super chats I was missing. I think. And I don't know if I didn't, I'll come back and Simon says, all I want for the writers of Discovery, Picard, Lower Decks to pay a salute to the Captain James T. Kirk. Yeah, I think they're staying away from that, but yeah, why shouldn't they? God damn it. That's what I want to see too. Sheriff Carl says, if you're talking Maiden Friday, I want to join. Well, I think we should. If a new Iron Maiden album comes out, we would be remiss if we do not talk Iron Maiden. I mean, it is, after all, Midnight Metal. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, gentle beings, kind souls, however you identify across the 28 known galaxies, this is Robservations episode number 737. The show about something. I want to thank all of you. It's good to be back. Back from the grave and ready to party. I had my little working vacation. It was lovely. I want to thank everybody for participating and supporting the channel via tips and super chats. Thank you very much. Remember, in case you didn't know or needed to be reminded, Tango Shalom, the low-budget indie Jewish spiritual quest family dance comedy fable movie that I produced, edited, post, and VFX supervised, is opening in Los Angeles and New York this weekend. If it has good weekends, if people go to the theater, and we don't have a marketing budget, we have a very small marketing budget. Most people don't even know it's coming. But if they go and the movie does do business, well, that means it could also go to Philadelphia, Miami, and Chicago. That's the plan. And if not, you can get it on VOD on October 29th. But hey, go see it in the theater. You know what? I've only seen it in a theater once, and it wasn't the biggest theater. I'm really looking forward to going to see it, because there's nothing I like more than to sit back and watch a movie that I've made and just pat myself on the back for 115 minutes. No, I'm kidding. I don't really do that. But it's always, I'm curious, because, normally I've looked at the movie on this small screen, on this very screen I'm talking to you on now, and to see it in a theater, yeah, you'll probably see all the flaws and mistakes in it. But still, anyway, it's coming. I want to thanks to my moderating staff. I want to thank Josh Levesque is here. I saw that Louise is here. Louise X Sparrow. Greg Smith is here. Greg, I was in Portland. I saw Mike. Darren Seeley. Joshua Levesque. I already said Joshua. I want to thank you all for being the great moderators that you are. It's great to have the Blue Wrenches back working for me. There's going to be some other shows going up. There's more PGS All-Stars with different guests. Looking forward to getting those up. I hope you loved the able assist that the lovely was able to give it to us. We've got more of that. Steve and Scotty from the Phantasmagorium show have done some Star Trek shows I'm going to put up. So enjoy those. It's kind of neat. The Burnettwork is becoming an actual network. I'm very excited about that. So anyway, on that note, remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And on that note, I would say to everybody, have a better day.